All right, call to order the September 6, 2018 meeting of the North Andover Planning Board. Executive session, we're going to move that to the end of the agenda. So we will start with, well, let's start with some ones that we're not actually doing today. So Reed Street subdivision, I understand that that is going to be continued until our September 25th meeting?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so that's officially continued until September 25th. North Andover Master Plan. So this went before the Board of Selectmen on Monday of last week. They got it, asked some questions, had some discussion about implementation. They are going to come back next Monday and I think discuss and make some recommendations, which will then come back to us. So hopefully we can look at those, and then hopefully for September 25th, hopefully we can take a vote on that. Okay? So master plan continued until September 25th. All right, 31 Johnson Circle. Denise Favorite?
Yeah.
Okay. Watershed special permit under sections 4.136, 10.3, and 10.31. This is for a four-season finished sunroom. Ms. Favorite was here 2 weeks ago and introduced this. And we had a few questions, and there were a couple of outstanding items to get resolved. So Monica, why don't you tell us about the resolution of those items?
All right, so we were waiting for two items. One was a review of the revised plan, which was to be done by our town engineer. He looked at the plan, said everything was good. He did ask me to add one condition, which stated that, that a condition of inspection prior to backfill of the infiltration system take place. So I added that as number 27 in the decision, which was included in your packet. Also, I just wanted to confirm the number of square feet of the addition. That would be on and I include that in the decision as well. It's just 224 square feet.
And were you going to go to the site? Was that this one?
No, that
That's
was
different.
not. That
Okay.
was not. That
All
was last meeting.
Okay.
I have visited the site.
Excellent. And then was there also additional peer review?
Not for this one.
Okay, so that was it?
That's it. So
Okay.
you'll see the email from Jordan Borghese saying that he reviewed the plans, they satisfy his needs, and the request of the inspection.
Okay. Anything you want to add?
I do.
Okay.
So Monica was good enough to send me the draft. So I have some questions on these special conditions sections. So on number 17 on special conditions, what is the compost of bark mulch sock erosion controls that must be installed in accordance with the plan? What is that?
That's part of it looks like that's part of the Conservation Commission
Is that part
plan?
of what?
Concom?
Is that part of what the town engineer wanted?
So what it is, and I can give you details on that, but it's a sack that contains bark mulch, and what it does, it prevents any soil erosion.
It is what you want. Part of what he asked for that was added to the plan. Thank you.
Yes.
That's what I want. Is it a sack or a sock?
What is it? I think it's a sock.
But it is a round thing.
I will check with conservation though.
Is that
She
a
is the.
temporary construction feature or a permanent
No,
feature?
it's temporary. They put it in prior to
Right.
construction, you do your construction,
yeah.
and then they take it all away.
Okay.
Got it. Okay. Then my next question's on the next one, 18, the deed restriction. This is a little concerning to me because, of course, I feel like a deed restriction may make it harder, an impediment to selling the property at some point in the future for me or my children if I die. But so I'm just concerned about that, I guess. I mean, it's just fertilizers, to use non-organic pesticides and herbicides. And I can't use coal tar-based pavement sealant for the driveway. Like, what are you supposed to use?
I mean, I'll take a crack at the beginning of it. The first part of it is that that's a standard condition we've put in every watershed special permit for the last 25 years. So you're not being singled out any differently than what we normally do, is that we take the responsibility and accountability of building in the watershed district very seriously, and we do want to ensure that best management practices are stated.
If I didn't put this addition on, I wouldn't have these restrictions in my deed going forward. They wouldn't
No,
be
you
there,
wouldn't.
correct?
You
So
would-
it's just because I want to put this addition on that the town's sort of taking this.
Well, you're asking for a special permit to build more intrusively in a watershed, so, I mean, that's the trade-off. But, I mean, we have probably done, we're not singling you out, we've probably done it for 50 to 75 separate properties.
So I don't have a
And I don't know
problem.
of anybody that's ever had a problem
I
selling
don't
a
have
house.
any issue with the pesticides and herbicides. I get it, right? And it's the watershed, and I'm all about trying to keep the environment clean. I was one of the first to start recycling and things like that. I totally do understand that, but I guess I'm more concerned with the pavement business. I don't know, I guess I'll have to ask somebody later. But it's just like, well, what do you put on your driveway then? I don't know.
Is that something new that we've started to put in? I mean, I honestly,
Says
oh, has it?
the use
Yeah.
of coal tar based, all right, well, I'm wondering what else you use, that's all. I don't know. I've only ever had it sealed once.
Feel any better, I've had this conversation with DPW, and they're saying that typically that those are being phased out anyway, so the use of
These
coal-based,
things are being phased out
the
anyway,
coal-based
so-
tar.
Gotcha.
So-
Thank you. That makes me feel much better.
That
Okay.
pretty much every
So it's-
decision that I've seen has those two conditions.
So that's not an issue, okay. Then the next thing is the construction monitor, an independent construction monitor. This is a small project, and this, right, it was designated as a small project, and given the gates at which, I mean, isn't that,
Fair. We'll strike the construction monitor. That's fair.
okay, thank you.
I do want to add that since the watershed is sensitive, we do monitoring, so if
But can't
if
the
it's not
town
gonna be a-
inspector come out, or you come out, or
I-
somebody?
Yes, I was going to add, I can be your construction monitoring, but monitoring will take place.
Okay, and I would expect that, great, thank you. Okay, so you'll strike 20. Thank you.
Or replace independent construction monitor with town planning staff?
Yes.
Okay. Great. All right. Let's see, and then the 2 copies of the signed recorded decision and plans must be delivered to the planning department, number 21. So is this the same thing that I need to do for the zoning board essentially, where they sent me their decision and like within 20 days, at the 20-day period, I need to go over to Lawrence to the Registry of Deeds and give them the Mylar and
Yes, there's no Mylar per month.
for you, but, yeah. Okay, so I can do it all at the same time, I'm assuming, for you
Yes.
and thanks, okay. Number 24, dust mitigation is, I don't know about that one, but number 25, I guess, the stockpiling materials. The Conservation Board had already asked that I put any building materials on the end of my driveway, like next to the garage. There's a paved driveway section next to the garage, and they said they wanted me to have the building materials put there instead of on the ground. So I'm assuming that's still all right, but does it really have to be fenced off?
That's the board.
I mean, if you look at the lot right by that driveway, and it just seems like it's kind of silly.
I think the fence is more for the dirt, since with
So
the heavy rain, that could
neighbor-
migrate.
Yeah, but then, okay, so the garage, the garage is here, the driveway's here. My neighbor's house that would be impacted at all is over here, right? And there's quite a steep hill, like right there. Like it goes like really steep up. So I just can't I'm just, you see what do you remember what it looks like? I'm just wondering.
I do. I'll add that the construction fencing is to prevent erosion, because again, the idea is the same thing as with the bark mulch sock.
So
It's to
the
prevent any
fencing would only
erosion.
need to go like at the end of the driveway into where any water might, see what I'm saying? It's not going to go uphill.
No, no. I would say that if it's going to have a down gradient, then you want to protect it there. But
Okay.
again, the idea is to prevent erosion, especially in the watershed.
So can you just put in that you'll figure that or recommend
We
something?
can-
I don't know.
We're going to probably leave most of these conditions, and if you have questions
Oh, all right.
afterwards, you can talk with planning, like, as if you have questions about how it's going to be enforced or interpreted.
And
All right.
we can do a site visit, show you where everything should go, check everything as the process goes along.
Okay.
How long do you anticipate the project
6
lasting?
weeks.
6 weeks, really?
They've told me 6 weeks. 2 builders. So it shouldn't take too long. The other one that I'm concerned about is because for costs is number 28. Do I really need to have a final as-built plan showing the final location of all the on-site structures and infiltration system, given I'm already going to have the infiltration system inspected before it's covered up, right? That was added. And the next number, 29, is requesting a letter from the architect and the engineer who have already paid, that the project substantially complies with the plans. So it seems like that letter should suffice rather than having to incur costs for an engineering plan to be done I don't get it. Like, why do I need to do that?
Well, I think the as-built is to ensure that the project conforms to the original plan, so that you didn't build closer to any wetlands than you had said you would.
Right.
I'm not sure what our standards are for an as-built plan, whether that has to be a CAD document, or that could be something just a marked up version of the plan.
You could have something that's much simpler. I mean, you could take frankly, a copy and pencil it in and
Of
get
the
it
existing
initialed.
plan?
I mean, I'm not.
Well,
I
what
don't
I'm
think we're
thinking
hung
is,
up.
yeah, the existing plan is pretty detailed, and, I mean, it's very detailed, and what I'm thinking is, if the architect and the engineer sign off that it,
And then give them the sign off on the thing that's what got built. I mean, Aaron's right, is that the reason why we do it is because, believe it or not, on occasion, people don't build what they tell us they're going to build. And so we want assurance that they do on a plan, and if that's what you built, then just mark it up, and you can have them initial.
submit the same, essentially submit the same. I'm just-
Fundamentally the same, yeah, but you got to at least, you can't just make a copy, and you got to do a little bit of due diligence to ensure that it is the right thing. I mean, we're not trying to put you through a torture chamber here on this, so we're reasonably trying to
Well,
balance.
yeah, I mean, it's just more costs, right? Engineering costs and
Well,
architecture.
what I'm suggesting is if your engineer's a decent guy, he should hardly charge you anything, if anything at all, for this, frankly. I mean, any decent engineer has done this many times in this town and other towns, and if they're trying to charge you big money for that, I would be a little bit skeptical.
Okay.
What I
okay.
would say is go back to the engineer that designed it. They'll ensure that it's designed according to their specifications. They sign it, because we do need it signed by them, and then you submit it. They
Okay.
shouldn't be recreating a plan unless it significantly deviates. And if it's
So he would do a letter and that would simply satisfy both 28 and 29 with a letter.
we need
Right.
Well, I think to John's point, and I don't know what the planning department stands are, I think you do need to at least copy your plan and then mark up where things were actually built. If things are a foot off or so, then you got to note that.
Okay.
You got
I
to note
gotcha.
exactly where.
I see.
It's during construction things, there's certain levels of tolerance. I know they're going to try to get it exactly where you want, but this is just
Okay.
verification that they built it where they're supposed to build.
I just want to make it clear that it's the engineer marking up the plan and not the applicant.
Oh,
Right,
no, I
right,
wouldn't.
yes, no, that's
The
important.
engineer needs to sign it, you
Yes.
said, right? So I understand. Okay, that's clear then. Okay, thank you, I feel better about that.
Anybody on the board have any questions,
That's all.
comments?
No, I think
Was-
So we want to close?
I'd make a motion to close the public hearing for this site plan review, 31 Johnson Circle, watershed special permit.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you
Well,
very
hold on, we
much.
have to vote. We just closed the, we just closed the public hearing. Now we're going to vote on the decision.
Oh,
Okay? So now that the hearing is done, now we're actually going to vote. It is a sock. All right, does anybody have any suggested changes? Okay.
I'd make a motion to approve the watershed special permit, subject to the amendments we agreed to in earlier discussion tonight.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, approved.
thank you all very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for dealing with my questions. I appreciate the explanations.
Questions.
I do.
And I thank you for raising them, even though we may have like had sour looks in our face.
It's all right. People generally don't mind so much once they understand.
Yeah.
All right, so now we will do discussion 209 Johnson Street. Hi. Can you folks just introduce yourselves?
Yes, Christine and Corey Fritz, 209 Johnson Street.
Welcome. Monica, why don't you tell us about this discussion item?
So this is a waiver request for a special watershed special permit under section 14.136, section 4.136, 10.3, and 10.31 of the North Andover zoning bylaw. The applicant proposes to construct a 384 square foot deck within the non-disturbance zone. This project is located within the residential 3 zoning district. And in your packet, you can see the homeowner submitted a waiver request, and in that submittal included a letter which was written by the homeowner, a plan of land, a letter written by Norse Environmental regarding the resource delineation, photographs, their customer agreements. And I also included a letter, an email from our stormwater peer consultant.
So just one point. probably in the future, we should try to look for on the sections, for the renumbered sections.
Oh, yeah.
Right, I think, because I'm looking at it online with the zoning bylaw and the waivers, now section 195, 4.24, so we should just try to use the updated
Okay.
ones to the extent possible. Okay, so they're looking, a waiver of special permits.
Yes.
All right, and, well, why don't we hear from you folks, and then Monica, why don't you tell us any input from our departments? Okay, go ahead.
Hi, so we are looking to replace an existing deck that had been there that we removed last fall when we redid the siding on our home, because the existing structure we felt was very unsafe. So we removed that structure, and we are looking to replace it as well as expand it. We are requesting the waiver, with the agreement, obviously, that we will have the proper erosion control plan in place. As you discussed with the last property, have the filtration sock along the buffer resource zone, and we agree under the waiver request to have the town planner perform a minimum of 2 inspections during the construction process, and of course, halt construction if the proper erosion control is not in place.
So you had a deck here before, and you didn't feel it was a safe condition, so you decided in the course of re-siding your house, you'd take that down and come back and install a later date. What was the configuration of the old deck? Is it
So, yep.
same as proposed here or different?
So the original deck was a 12 by 16. You can see, I can show you on the plans.
Your pictures that
Yeah.
have the back of the house, pictures of the back of the house. You can,
White chalk outline.
so you can see where there's a small door with the, like a bump out. There was an existing 12 by 16 porch there when we
Yeah.
purchased the home in 2013.
And so we're basically just
That
looking-
was incredibly unsafe, wobbly, not built to code, I don't even think for 1953, when it was maybe built.
So you're proposing building like for like?
I mean, so the new structure.
Replacing the existing and adding to it.
But the new structure will have helical piles, which are much safer and don't, have minimum disturbance to the topography of the land. So there won't be anything dug into the ground. The helical piles go straight in. The new structure will also have a steel frame, which, is much more long-lasting, and obviously, and then, and I'm not in construction or anything, but the what am I trying to think of? The poles that will be there obviously will be, within building code, which, like we said, the other
This is
ones.
The type of deck that is going in is very, up to all standards and even more. Steel deck frames are new design, but they are known to be the safest, most structurally sound, thing you can do. And in this case, to get back to the existing deck that was there, it was a 12 by 16 off the back of the house, simple with no egress down to the backyard either. So we deemed it unsafe, fully permitted for the siding. We had conservation come out and give us a general okay at that time in terms of how far we're outside of the buffer zone, this, that, and the other thing. So we got a verbal okay. And so we went forth with continuing the siding and, as you can see from the photos, expanding the ledger board over. And doing that, we were under the impression that we could move forward after the winter and start with our deck project. And then we found out some more information.
The gentleman who did the siding project had recommended to us that, in order for the siding to go in properly, that if we were to replace the existing deck and expand it as we wanted to, that it would be beneficial to us to put the ledger board in at that time, so that you then don't have to, because we couldn't really afford to do both projects at once.
You don't want to put on the siding.
Oh, sure.
You wanted everything to be conformed and seal tight. So that's why we made that decision. So now, fast forward to tonight, we're in the same position, and we are looking to replace the existing deck and add to.
Yeah, and I mean, and when we had conservation come out last year, you know, we weren't really aware that we were within the watershed and that it was gonna kind of come to this.
I'm lucky, I live up the hill from you, and I'm not in the water.
Quick question, are those French doors at the end, or is that like a large window? So like, were those?
That is a French door.
Yeah.
Were they put in as part of the project? Because if the deck didn't go all the way over?
Yeah.
Oh, so they were like installed thinking?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, because we kind of, like we said, we got the like
Yeah.
verbal
So at the moment, we're
approval, so
living with no egress
No-
to the back of the
There's
home.
no way you can, yeah, no. except-
Without, unless, you can
Except
see,
the bottom
you can
door.
see the bottom door
Yeah.
out of the basement, that's it. So there's no egress off the main floor. At the-
So they
this-
advised that you do that because the siding was getting done and you have to rip it all down?
Well,
if you
it
got
was
the deck
meant
up?
to
Yeah.
be all conformity, to be conformed
that's
to nice.
So we thought because we couldn't really afford to do the whole project
Yeah.
at once, so we thought we were
Sure.
kind of, checking all of our boxes, and turns out we weren't.
The obvious disturbance from putting in a helical pile, which I know isn't much, do you intend on any other grading or disturbance of that area below?
There will be, the topography of the land is as you see it. There will be no disturbance, there will be no large construction vehicles out back. We're not changing the grading, we're not changing anything in regards to the hill. That is there, that runs up. The existing patio that is there now, which is a concrete slab that has flagstone over the top of it, is a concrete slab. And so that we did propose that we would eventually replace with standard concrete pavers. Other than that, it would not, any of that patio would not expand outside of the construction of the new deck, boundary lines.
That I wanted to add to, and this was something that both Conservation and I, we didn't see it on the plan, but we saw it in the estimate from the contractor, was an inside-out ceiling system. And so once we saw that, I'm from the applicant that I'd have to run that past in the engineer just to see how that would affect stormwater runoff. Because again, the permit waiver does allow you to waive the permit if there's no change in topography, if there's no additional land disturbance. However, now the ceiling system essentially it would be seen as a metal roof.
Okay, so this is a cover.
Right underneath. It's
Oh,
covered.
underneath.
So,
So
it's a cover over the patio?
How would the water run then?
It's a ceiling system,
Yeah, that comes underneath.
so it's underneath the deck, so you're underneath the deck, it's just simply a ceiling system. So when we proposed this to the building department, as just a standard building permit, fully supplied the contract, every means possible. I'm very thorough in everything I do. Everything was proposed to the building department, and that has been available on the Viewpoint system since we applied at the beginning of June. The question in regards to the ceiling system came up, I believe, late last week. It was never brought up before, so
Yeah, I mean,
it
it's
popped up.
actually, to tell you the truth, from my perspective, as much ratification as kind of logically makes sense, but most decks, there's place for the water to run.
Right.
Yes,
So in this case, it wouldn't run, so I suppose the reason why you do it is so you can do something underneath.
no, it would provide you to stay dry during the rain.
It just so literally,
Well,
so
it
we
would-
could be out there when it's raining, as
Yeah.
opposed to doing like a 3-season or.
It provides
So
you.
it's a roof. Oh, it's
yeah.
not on.
It is a roof, but
Yeah,
it's
above, it's on the underside of the deck, so you
So
would
if
be
you were
able to.
below the deck,
Yes.
you would be dry.
Yeah.
not
Yes.
Up above.
Yeah,
Not
that
up
was
above.
my
It's
point.
essentially,
That was,
if it rains, the water would go through the boards of the deck and
Yep.
be channeled by this
Yeah.
yes.
metal panel
right,
Yep.
that's, so
somewhere.
it's more for underneath.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
Okay.
So then, where does that runoff collect? Because, I mean, that is sort of at the essence of what we worry about.
Yeah.
That's,
Where does that water go?
So, so when this was brought up last week, I contacted my builder as soon as possible, and I asked him questions and tried to have him give me more information in regards to it. Once again, it is considered to be, an aluminum underdecking system that would run off underneath. And then there would be, for each 12 by 16 section, so if you look at the deck, it's basically two 12 by 16s connected. For each 12 by 16, there would have to be one downspout. So there would be a total of 2 downspouts.
And he had basically told us we could
You can
put them
pick and choose.
wherever.
So there would be
we need them
four,
to.
there would be four posts on those two 12 by 16 decks. You can choose one of, 2 of 4 to where you would want to put a downspout. Just like 12 feet back from that, there is already downspouts on the existing home.
So, but our peer consultant says, in my opinion, if the applicant provides pre-treatment and infiltration of roof runoff and the product information as mentioned above, which was what they proposed, the proposed project can be approved. So what do we have in terms of pre-treatment and infiltration of roof runoff?
There is nothing proposed on the plan that was submitted. And again, had we seen that on the plan, then we would have questioned it ahead of time. Typically, infiltration systems are included on the plan, so then we can judge it based on the plan. We just happen to see this on the price quote.
Means it's, you run it into a dry well, right? Is that what we're talking about?
The peer consultant provided a couple of options that we could look at, but I guess from, in reviewing this and reviewing the bylaw, the one concern is typically the decks in the watershed, they don't have a system, so there's just an even distribution of water. You're not dry underneath, but it disperses more naturally. When you then have a gutter system, now you're infiltrating water, you're changing the direction of the water flow, and their project is in the non-disturbance zone, and so this actually would trigger a special permit, because under number 5, it says any surface or subsurface discharge included but not included to stormwater runoff, drainage of any roadway that's maintained by the Division of Public Works, or any drainage of any roadway that is maintained by the Division of Public Works, or any private association, outlets of all drainage swales, outlets of all detention ponds. So since they're diverting water, then the question is, does this call for a special permit? If it was just open, like what appears to be on the plan, then
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really realize that
Yeah.
that was, we just had a plan done.
Did I hear you correctly say that it could go where the previous downspouts were?
No.
So there were
So
no previous...
there are, on the back of the home, as you can see, there's one downspout to the right of the French door.
Okay.
The only, there's another downspout where the top floodlight is. On that, there's a downspout there, and then there's also a downspout on the other side of the bump out. So there's 3 downspouts on the back of the home at this moment right now. The patio that the runoff comes onto now is not impervious, it's a concrete platform. And you would only be you'd be adding 2 more downspouts 12 feet off. To tell you the truth, it would be beneficial for our project, and we're willing to do what needs to be done. This just came up. We had no chance to respond to the peer review because that was given to us yesterday. So we had no response to never even heard of infiltration and this, that, and the other. So we're just kind of
Understood,
putting our cards out on the table here.
and appreciate that. I have one other kind of question. I'm just reading the waiver of the special permit. It says we can grant a waiver if it will not expand the existing footprint of the structure. It seems to me we are increasing the existing footprint of the structure. So I'm right, this is going to be bigger than it was before. Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that it's the type of project that we would want to be able to give a waiver to. I just don't know that that language allows it.
It's a little bit, yeah, I'm sort of struggling with it myself and from a lot of perspectives, because I'm thinking, the irony of all ironies is we just had one on the same street. And I'm
Right.
saying,
Wow.
in that case, we did a special permit, this case, we didn't. How much different is it? And are we getting the equivalent of a special permit? Because, Monica, if you went and got our peer review consultant and we didn't even do a site plan review, that says we're doing the equivalent due diligence. And what we really want, I mean, the intent of the special permit process is primarily in small projects like this to ensure that we do proper due diligence. And if we're doing proper due diligence without a special permit, maybe we can wave it through. I mean, and even frankly, I was thinking when we had the conversation on the other one, do we have the proper procedure in place to ensure that when we get these de minimis projects, we get the protection, but we minimize the cost? I mean, I think the points you raised were all very fair points, and we may be erring on a one-size-fit-all approach to our projects. And, I don't particularly want this family here to incur a lot of extra costs, but I want proper protection, so I'm struggling a little with it.
Well, we've talked in the past about having small project process,
Yeah.
right? And this is a small project.
If I could add to, we are going fully through conservation for an RDA.
Yeah, and
So we're doubling up in terms of, doing all that we can do in regards to, and I know that you guys are separate departments, but we are going through a full RDA application with conservation as well. So that's covering a lot of bases
Yeah, I
there.
mean, we've tried to, with all the requests, tried to have the plan updated as much as possible. We had to go back and have it updated a couple of times. We hired a wetlands biologist to come out and mark the land, so we've already been,
We've done
we've been trying.
an
this-
exorbitant amount of due diligence ourselves.
I think you've actually done more than a lot of times when people do apply for a
No.
permit, and that's my thinking. My inclination here is to say, let's not make the final determination in the next meeting, but let's finish our due diligence and attach whatever conditions or concerns in a quasi-decision, and it'd be the equivalent of a special permit. If we did that, I'm willing to waive it in this case.
So
What we did for the last project, just to remind you, is we didn't, this was an informal letter to our peer consultant who gave us a couple of options. With the last project, the town engineer performed the actual review at no cost, additional cost to the homeowner. So then he could go and say specifically what was needed. So this email from the peer consultant has like 3 different ideas, but what we could ask the town engineer to do is to say specifically where the infiltration system should go, what type of system it should be, what it should look like, so then you know exactly what's supposed to happen.
If the idea here is what's a small project method to still have the same protections, that type of approach gets us there, right?
And since-
If the protections are the infiltration, and if the town engineer can do it without cost. Not do the system, but advise where, and
I mean, I think we still need more answers about, I think we definitely need more answers, and I think you need to do a little more research about what the ceiling provides and about that.
So we moved on from the ceiling. If the ceiling did not exist,
Yeah.
where do we stand in regards to our waiver?
Well, if the ceiling did not exist, I think we don't have the concerns. My only issue is the bylaw language about the footprint. I mean, but I if we don't have the ceiling, I think we don't have really the issue, we don't have that issue, right, of other special permits or the water infiltration, everything's just going naturally.
Everything's just going naturally through like it would without a ceiling. And then, yes, this is larger than the initial permit, but
So-
again, that's up to you.
just happens to have, on the Google, that's the original. Would extend over here, and then windows replaced with doors. So, I mean, it is big.
Why are you going out the extra couple feet?
So there, I don't know if he's showing you an aerial of where the existing deck was, maybe?
Yeah.
I'll
So
bring that up again.
we're expanding it, A, because there was no egress off of that deck. So we need to
So that would
install
be
a set of stairs.
Which would be a safety concern?
What was that?
Having an extra set of egress would be safer so that there's a way to get off?
Yeah, there's multiple
On and
ways to
off
get
of
out.
it.
There's a way to get out of
But
the
in
back.
terms of expanding the deck, you wouldn't be able, there's no way to get off the back of the house from the main floor. We live on a hill, so the main floor, and this from the back of the home looks like a second floor, but it is the main floor. There's no egress to the back, to be able to get to safety from the back of the house at the moment.
All right, so it sounds to me that that would be a good reason to allow for something that is beyond the current footprint.
But also, without that ceiling, the structure is essentially pervious.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so that's, right, I think those are two different, right. The second issue, the issue about the footprint, I think just, I want to make sure we get within our own bylaw, and I think that's a good reason.
To be honest with you, we bought the house 5 years ago. We love the property, we love the town. We have a 9 and a 6-year-old, at home. We love to be outside. Bless you. We actually love that pond as much as being in the watershed is causing us right now, and honestly, it was just about being able to be outdoors more, and have that ability to share that.
That safety concern is pretty significant. I mean, I think
So I think, so it seems to me we'd be willing to waive the special permit with the plan as is minus the ceiling. Okay, so can we get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So Monica will write it up as did we've agreed to waive the special permit
With the condition.
with the condition of the plan as submitted with the ceiling provision, the ceiling part being removed and not constructed, and that we do not need a public hearing, that will not disturb the existing topography, and that to the extent it expands the existing footprint, we find that that is necessary for safety purposes.
Really write that up. And I know you guys took the vote
And
on.
the remaining,
Right.
minimum 2 inspections.
Right.
And the rest that's in the provision 195, 4.24.
Right. The one thing I did want to ask is in these areas that are outlined in the, with the spray paint, typically we would ask the homeowner to add some gravel on top for some recharge. So that's a condition that
Is that good?
Yeah, actually, we kind of already,
Yeah.
thought about putting gravel on those locations everywhere, because it's not like we would leave it unfinished, so to say, with rough construction area land. So if,
Great.
crushed stone or whatever needs. Yep.
That's what you meant.
Yes, exactly. Press down.
Okay. Anybody else?
You mentioned that you had not been aware that it was watershed?
We just, purchasing the home, it was never brought up to us.
Yeah.
There was never any deed restrictions that were on. The Nazarian family who lived in that home for 35 years, all we know that they did, that we were aware of, is that they tied into town sewer. So we saw a quick little order of conditions in terms of buying the home, and we were unaware of that man-made pond, that it would be consistent with being in the watershed now.
So we appreciate all the steps you've taken. A number of members of the board said you've done some great due diligence, so thank you. Thank you for your flexibility. The watershed issue is that that pond drains by a stream under the road, through the cemetery, into the lake, and the issue is that the lake's drinking water
Yeah,
supply.
no, we.
we totally get it.
So thank you.
No, we appreciate it, and we never, there's no intentions of.
No, and I tell you, the pond was actually kind of the final kicker for us when we bought the house. Like,
Yeah.
we just loved it.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate your time.
Okay.
Good.
All set?
Thank you.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Can we do, there are a couple other agenda items before we get into executive session. Communications Lakeshore Cleanup Day. Lakeshore Cleanup Day is October 20th, 2018 at 9:30 a.m.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
You're all welcome. We meet at the Stevie's Pond parking lot, and just a short session, a couple hours, and DPW will have tools, gloves, trash bag picker-upper thingers, and come on down and help clean up the lake.
it is a good day. I know we went last year,
Yeah.
and it was well worthwhile. A lot of people down there helping out, which was great.
we pulled like a dozen golf balls out of the lake this weekend. My daughter did.
I noticed that there were fewer there when I rode by, so I was thinking of you. Thank you.
All right, about a meeting minutes. Approval of August 2nd meeting minutes, so hold on that. Let me see on that one. Peter, would you want to make that, you and I were the only ones present from the board?
Yep.
That was the site visit, so would you make a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
Motion to approve site visit meeting minutes.
I'm going to second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I trust you were there.
Thank you. Can we get a motion to approve the August 21st meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the August 21st minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So now we have a proposed executive session, and what we're going to do is we are not going to return to open session. So we will go into executive session based on motion, and we will not be returning. So after we do this, after we go into executive session, then we'll be all done with the cameras.
Well, can I make a motion to adjourn after the executive session? Is that appropriate?
I think we make the motion to adjourn the open session now, I believe. So, but once we approve the motion to go to the executive session, then you'll adjourn the open meeting. Okay? So the planning board will go into executive session for confidential communication to discuss litigation strategy within the case of Varsity Wireless versus North Andover Planning Board. The chair has declared an open meeting would be detrimental to the town's litigation strategy. Open session will not be reconvened at the conclusion of the executive session. So look, we have a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make the motion to go into executive executive session. There we go. I said it.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
I, John Simons, vote to go into executive session.
I, Jennifer Luz, vote to go into executive session.
I, Aaron Preston, vote to go into executive session.
I, Tom Goldberg, a vote to go into executive session.
Peter Boynton, vote to go into executive session.
We got a motion to adjourn the open session.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, we stole it. All in favor? Aye. All right.
No ill